Welcome to Texas!
He's a 10.
I choose this family.
Hi guys, and welcome to episode 50 of 911 Lone Star Roundup. I'm one of your hosts, Grace, and with me are my lovely co-hosts, Katie.
Hi guys.
And EJ.
Hey everyone.
Today we will be talking about season 3, episode 3 of 911 Lone Star, titled Shock and Thaw. And we just got obsessed a moment. This is our 50th episode of the podcast.
Yeah.
Yay, this is
So
awesome.
crazy.
Thank you for everybody who's been listening.
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks to all our listeners. And as usual, y'all know the drill by now. We have a lot to talk about, so let's get talking.
Yeah, this was an interesting episode.
Yeah.
I'll explain it as I did with a friend of mine the other day. It's like the Two Towers in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, if you've seen them. It's kind of in the middle, so there's really no beginning and no end. You just jump right into everything that's going on.
Exactly.
So I know a lot of people were like, but it's not done. I need more. And I'm like, well, of course you need more because it's kind of the middle.
Well, also, like, I feel like that's like always the mood because you're always like, oh, I just need more. But like that's the whole point. You want to keep going back, and that's what they want you to do. That's how they get their ratings.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So then we'll come back next week for number 4. So yeah.
Well, we start off with the sheriff showing up at the spot where Marjan crashed, which technically he was looking at the van which Marjan crashed when she was trying to avoid. He doesn't know that she's there.
Right. Yeah.
And this is funny. This is funny for the reason that from the very beginning of the fact that she swerved with the van, I was like, I knew that would be significant.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I was like, I knew it.
Yeah. And when the sheriff got out of the car for a split second, I was like, is that Carlos's dad?
Yeah. From the back. Then I was like,
yeah.
I don't think Gabriel and the Rangers drive those kind of vehicles, so it's definitely not.
Well, some people were like, oh my god, it's Carlos. And I'm like, the car is
for
not
a brief second, I did think that.
Well,
for a brief second, then I was like, wait, he's at the hospital and he doesn't drive that type of car.
Well,
sorry, I'll stop interrupting
the
you.
car, the first thing when people were saying that, where I was like, okay, no, because first of all, it's not an SUV type car. Second of all, it said sheriff, and we saw that like immediately.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, that's not it. But I will say, this sheriff, the second he came on screen, the second the episode started, I did not get a good vibe. Like, I was watching with a friend, and I was like, okay, like he is either another coyote or he is helping them. Like, I was so suspicious of him from the start, but also because like I knew there was going to be more with that in some sense.
Yeah.
And it was interesting.
So I wasn't immediately suspicious of him, though I was curious about him. I was like, okay, they're just bringing in a random character, so he's going to show up at some point. But I wasn't immediately thinking who was the bad guy. That came later.
Right, yeah.
So I was a little slow on the uptake there, but
yeah.
Well, I don't think it was anything per se. It was just, he just gave off an odd vibe the way he was looking around at things. So that's kind of what clued me in that something was up with him.
Yeah, it was interesting to see the scene because obviously in the previous episode, we kind of saw Marjan like looking around the car, and then to see her like after the sheriff like leaves and gets back in his car to get out of the car, it was interesting because there was obviously like missing pieces to this scene and like missing pieces of the puzzle. And it was interesting to like see how like we can now piece this sort of together.
Right.
Yeah. No, at first it was like, oh no, she missed being saved. And then you think about it, and it's like, nah, she was saved by missing being saved.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Oh my God. Yeah. There's like, yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah. But so we go back to the barn where Owen is with the immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
And he's trying to talk to the coyote, like trying to talk him down, and he doesn't know Spanish. So this is like the communication barrier is inconvenient and a little funny to watch just because it's like, Owen, have you not clued into the fact he doesn't speak?
He's literally having a full-blown conversation with this dude in like English. The dude doesn't understand English. He understands Spanish, and Owen's just like having this full conversation with basically himself. And I'm like, dude, he doesn't speak English. house.
I'm like, how long have you been up in the mountains here, Owen?
Owen, oh boy.
I think in a way that was it was better than staying silent.
Oh yeah, like
And talking, even if the guy couldn't understand him, was also a matter of distraction.
Yeah.
And so like I'm saying, oh, what the hell is he doing? But also at the same time, that may have actually been some good strategy because you keep someone's eye on you, even if they don't understand what you're saying, but you keep someone's attention and they're not looking around at everybody else as much.
Right, which eventually helped him out because it did distract him enough to.
Well, then he tries to full on bribe him. And I'm just like, Owen, you're either nuts or freaking brilliant.
Well, yeah, he was kind of trying to like, he's like, this isn't my problem. I'll give you $20. Let me leave.
yeah, like I think the whole money thing was to like then be able to like knock him out basically.
He wanted to get him
he was
closer.
never going to bribe. Yeah, he was never actually going to pay.
No, he wasn't. He was just trying to get the guy to walk closer enough so he could be close enough to hit him.
And for one thing, if you think about it, the guy was probably never actually going to let him leave, even if he did take the money successfully.
Right. He'd have just shot him.
It just would have been a way of getting
Well, yeah. Well,
like that was never going to happen. And no one knew that.
I mean, he's smart enough to know if he did like take the bribe and let him go, that he would literally just go to his cabin, be like, hey, like, there's a coyote. Owen would do that. Like, come on.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, he would. So it was actually quite brilliant how he did it. Just getting him close enough and then headbutting him into unconsciousness.
But TK, oh my god, the coma dream.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, like him waking up was kind of creepy.
So
I kind of got creeped out.
It reminded me of when Dean Winchester woke up with black eyes when he woke up as a demon at like the end of I think season 10 or early season 11 in Supernatural, and it had that like vibe to me, and I was like, oh, this is actually kind of good.
The thing was that it had such an off feel because you're not in reality,
right?
And it feels too natural to feel natural, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think it was meant to be awkward because it is, he's in a dream, and
definitely, and like nice PJs, TK.
Yeah, like. Aw.
Yes.
And I love the mentioning of Buttercup eating the slow tea infuser.
Yes. That little rascal. Yeah, exactly. And that was just like, it was kind of funny because I kind of wanted that, even if it was in a dream, to be like mentioned again, because like you kind of wanted to hear about that, I guess. Mm-hmm.
And like, so like TK's hearing beeping in his ears, and it's just funny because they had released a scene like maybe the last like a week before, not like a week before, but like a couple days before this episode aired. And it's funny because some people didn't realize it was like a coma dream, and people were like, why is there beeping? And I'm like, the second it started, I was like, because we got like the Gwen and TK, we didn't get like the beginning part. I was just like, the beeping, like the second it started, I knew it wasn't, but the beeping was definitely a major like clue.
And you can tell even with the lighting that it's completely different. Like we have seen Owen's house numerous times. That has never looked like that in that coloring before. So that was a huge clue to me. If I hadn't realized with the beeping, I would have realized it, with the coloring, because it's just totally different.
Right.
But let's be honest, they left a lot of obvious stuff that it wasn't real life. If anything, just the interactions. But I loved the beeping though, because it's the monitors that he's hearing through his dream.
Right.
And they're kind of like making his head hurt, making him all confused and stuff. And I'm just here going, I love that they included that actually.
Which is dropping hints, because they always say that people in comas can hear you sometimes. And so it's just, so he can hear what's going on in a sense, but doesn't realize what's going on and outside in his head is actually the reality.
Right. Yeah. And we find out the baby's name is Jonah. Super cute.
Jonah's one of my favorite names, but still cute because baby.
Yeah, that's mostly why I think it's cute. Like, I was like, honestly, it's better than what people were predicting, so I was kind of like pleased. And I was pleased to hear that Enzo is like in his life,
Mhm.
which
In
I'm
the
not
picture,
surprised about, but like I'm also like happy to hear. It's like the
Yeah.
little updates that we're getting that like I
Right.
like hearing.
Yeah, and what
Yeah.
you got to remember that since we're in TK's dream, what he's thinking and hearing is stuff that he already knew. So he
Right.
knows that Enzo's in his brother's life. He knows, I think he asked like how Jonah is or something like that, and
Like what he's getting into.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
those are things like him and Gwen have probably talked about in like FaceTimes and stuff like that.
Right, exactly. And I think it's funny because a couple of my friends, when they watched the episodes, were like, is Gwen dead? And I'm like, no. And I'm like, I totally get that because if you watched any other show, you know that like when characters are faced with life or death, and
Mhm.
they're usually like they get visits from like dead people
Right.
and stuff. And I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure she's alive.
Right.
Oh yeah, she's alive. Just
It was just funny to hear that,
Yeah.
like people's reactions and be like, what's happening?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can see where people are getting that idea. I just don't think that they would do something like that.
I feel like it'd be too traumatic for TK. Like,
Yeah.
yes, he's an adult, but like any person losing their parent, especially when you're close to your parent, is hard. So,
Tell
like,
me
I
about
feel
it.
like, yeah. So I just feel
Yeah.
like it just wouldn't be a good direction for the show to like put him through this when he's already dealing
Right.
with enough.
Yeah. And we still don't
Yeah.
know why him and Carlos broke up. So there's a lot of like question marks. So
Oh,
I don't think
no.
the show would, kill her just, but then, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and also like the cookies was super cute. Like TK wanting me cookies like when he was a kid, and I'm like, okay, that's adorable. Like I still like those are still things that I love doing with my mom,
Yeah.
like making cookies and stuff. So
Mhm.
like I love like the sentiment of that, and
Yeah.
like and then Gwen telling TK to like fight, and he's like, fight who?
Yeah. Yeah. And then we kind of see reality of his heart slowing down, and Carlos is sitting at the edge of the or on a chair next to the bed. Wasn't
Yeah.
touching him, which was weird, but
Well, yeah, I feel like we kind of understand why he's not touching him in the promo we get, which we'll talk about later.
yeah.
But yeah, I was like, okay, these are the tears start forming because I'm just like, what the hell?
Yeah, because Carlos is like looking at the monitors and the doctors are all rushing in and
pushing him out.
No.
Oh, poor Carlos.
and he just like looks so in shock.
Yeah.
No, he does. Because, like, I feel like this was just so totally sprung on how much it was. Because, like, Nancy, like, called him there, but she didn't tell him. Like, I mean, she told him that TK wanted to see him. So he was probably expecting to, like, have, a wake TK.
Right.
No, I wouldn't. She probably thought that's the only way she could get him down and not have him like, I don't know, trip himself up into not coming. Because like he'd want to come, but he'd probably think he wasn't welcome, and so thinking that he was invited, sly but true.
Hey, I still say Nancy is like the queen of the Tarlos fan. Just saying.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, she is. Like, yes.
Maybe we can drop some hints that we need Nancy to like push them together a little harder.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have my opinions on like Carlos getting back together. But I'll like save those, I guess, maybe for later, another time and stuff. But we get Grace and Tommy at the call center. And I really like this because they did like release like 2 promos for this episode since we had that week break. And the second one, this was like the only additional scene in it. And so I was like, okay, we're getting Tommy and Grace. Love that. And so like Tommy is like saying how bad it is, like TK, and that like there's only one way going from this. And like Grace is just like telling Tommy to like keep faith. And Tommy's like, yeah, you're right. Because like Tommy's like, she doesn't like get to blaming herself until a little bit later, but like she's like feeling super down, which I totally understand. Like, yeah, that like she's the captain, so like it's sort of on her, even though it wasn't her fault. You couldn't predicted what would happen. But
So if you think about it, just the previous season or year and here, she just lost Tim too.
Oh yeah,
And so if you're thinking about it, like she's looking at having lost at least 2 people under her command. Like,
Oh,
who knows
yeah.
if she's lost anyone else?
I honestly,
And all within like
Right.
a year or so of each other.
yeah, I honestly didn't even connect that, but yeah, like,
I only
no.
just did.
Yeah, like she's totally like weighing that on herself and like, oh yeah. And I'm like,
Yeah, she's taking too much. I mean, she's taking responsibility or trying to. And Grace is trying to be the voice of reason here and being like, hey, she's like, well, how many ice rescues have you ever done?
all right,
I did love that. She's
Oh.
just kind of like, honey, there's not anything else she could have done.
Right. And even Grace says, you know, like TK would have done it in a heartbeat, you know, no questions asked. She's like, you know, he wouldn't have let you go out there.
Right. And then Tommy has the nerve to be like, wow, I've never seen the call centers this quiet. And when we were watching,
Girl.
I think like EJ and I at the same time were like, Tommy, do not just use a Q word.
I'm like, do not say the Q word.
Yeah, I said that my friend didn't know what that meant. And I'm like, how do you not know what that meant? You watched 911. Like, what the heck?
You completely forgotten Jinx.
I'm gonna be like, you need to come over and watch Jinx because yeah, you need to learn a few things apparently. Like, yeah, it's the fact the keyword haunts me so bad.
Relatable.
Yeah, I'm sure. And then like this is when Tommy started to blame herself about TK, and I'm like, we do not do that. Like, it was not your fault. It was like no one's fault. Like, the situation just sucks, and I'm just like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, and
Yeah.
Grace did make some good points. Like, you know, Tommy's like, well, we should have waited for backup, and Grace is like, well, you know, as well as I do, that there were no backup coming.
Oh yeah.
So they had to do what they had to do at the time.
Right. Yeah.
And I did like how they phrased this part, which was, let's see, Tommy was like, because of me, you know, a son's not going to be able to see his father again or something along those lines. And Grace is like, because of you, a little boy gets to go home to his family.
Yeah.
And I'm
exactly.
like, it's true.
Yeah.
Now it would have completely sucked if they, you know, lost the boy. Because we all know TK is going to be fine. We all know it. Anyone who says otherwise
hasn't been looking at Instagram.
Instagram.
Honey, I've been looking at Instagram and I know that he is still going to live.
Well, I'm just saying that Ronan keeps posting pictures of him in a 126 uniform, and we know it's current stuff. So, like,
yeah.
So,
yeah,
that, like, the fact that he's still filming, the fact that there's plenty of articles from Tim Minear that say, oh no, TK's gonna survive. I mean, it might not be an easy road, but he's gonna survive.
Mm-hmm. He's gonna learn something about himself.
Exactly. The multiple things that have been thrown at us. Go check those out.
Yes.
And then we see Owen at the barn again, and like oh my god, I loved him like telling the coyote that if his forehead feels anything like Owen's, then good. And I was like, mood.
Yeah,
that was a complete mood.
Yeah. And then one of the guys had lost his shoes in the accident, so he had frostbite on his feet, and so they had to make a makeshift sled for him.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the other guys was not having it, and he was just like, I'm gonna go, like, this is taking too long, they're gonna find us, blah blah blah. Like, okay, that's real smart to go out in a whiteout, like,
literally I'm sitting there going,
you're an idiot,
you dumbass mother. I mean, who, like, even if there wasn't others out there, which is obviously, you know, there's safety in numbers, and there's also like, anyway, it's also white out and you're going to freeze, because where do you think you're going?
Right? Like, it's just
okay, but imagine if he had gone all that way just to stumble into the cabin at some point, like, be like, I found somebody. Oh, it's you.
Oh, it's you.
Yeah.
That would have been funny.
That would have been funny.
Oh yeah.
That doesn't happen, and we'll get to that later.
Yeah, unfortunately. But
yeah, dumbass.
But Paul in the hospital getting, you know, a couple visitors. Jed and Mateo go and visit him.
Oh my gosh.
That was such a good scene. I loved that scene.
I loved it. Yeah, it was so good. And I loved Paul saying, like, I know if anybody was going to come from that wall, it would have been my boys from the 126. And I'm like, oh.
Yes.
Like, oh, we love it. And then like, oh, this scene was just like everything. Like, and then
Mhm.
Lindsay's parents interrupting, and Lindsay just being like, "You guys are so embarrassing," and I'm
Just like
mood.
I'm a typical teenager, and oh my god, my parents are
Right.
embarrassing me.
Right?
I'm just like,
No.
honestly, how they were acting, yeah, they were embarrassing.
Yeah, and then she's like, sits down and she's like, Mom, Dad, stop. She's like, I'm so sorry, Paul.
Right? Yeah, she's
And he's just like,
her-
it's
yeah,
fine.
Her parents are giving him all these like gifts, like this fancy blanket, and
I'm just like, I'll take the blanket, please and thank you.
yeah,
Yeah.
asking him if he wants a car, and like
Oh,
Paul being
gosh.
like, no. And this is when one of my friends is like, can they adopt me? And I'm like, honestly, same.
Right. Oh,
Right.
and then he's like, oh, he can open his Rolexes later. And then Mateo's like, did he say Rolexes with an S?
Yeah,
I'm
it's
just
so
like,
funny.
Mateo is a mood in this scene.
Yeah.
Right.
Mateo spelling his last name. That was so
Yes, see?
typical.
Yeah.
Remember?
How many times has he done this?
Wait. Okay, 203. That was the crossover and him spelling
303.
his last name. 303. Okay, I just discovered this in my brain literally 2 seconds ago when I started speaking, and now I'm like, okay, if that is a sign, I don't know what it is.
What happened in 103?
The dinner scene. Wait, no, that was 103. Oh, the police station scene.
Oh,
Yeah,
I was
we
like,
didn't
did
get
Mateo
him.
spell it? And
No, he did
Oh,
203 and 303.
yeah, but 203 and 303. That's funny.
I was like, Tarlo stuff happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then like I should like saying that like the reward of being a firefighter is the job itself. And I'm
Right.
like, yeah.
Well, yeah, because first responders are not supposed to accept gifts, especially like physical gifts. Like, you know, like they're not going to turn down like somebody brings them like food and things like that. But like they legally like really can't even accept like jewelry or a gift or, you know, anything from people who they rescue.
Right.
Okay, you said food, and I just went as they
Dosed.
though they should. Dosed.
All right.
I think
Yeah.
that's why the 118 is probably skeptical of taking any food now. They'd be like, what's in
Right.
this? Yeah, that's, and then like the dad being or them being like how can you like, or like the dad mentioning that's how he feels about his line of work, and Judd being like, oh, what's your line of work? And he's like, milk cartons, and Mateo's like, oh, you sell milk? You can buy all this off of milk? And he's like, not the milk, the carton. And I'm just sitting there like, huh? Like, what do you make cartons? You draw the pictures? What's the deal?
And how do you make so much money off of it?
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
It's interesting. Like
the milk's got to go in something. So,
Well, yeah.
it's
that's
just
true.
interesting.
yeah.
Very, very interesting.
Oh, and you can't forget what is it, the Maserati or whatever the name of that car is?
Oh, is it Maserati? Was that what he said?
Maserati. The Maserati. And then he's like, would you like Maserati? And Mateo's me in the scene. He's like, I would.
Yeah, I loved it.
Oh yeah.
He just kind of goes, well, you know, I was one of the ones through the wall. And he's just like, okay, so what's your
Right.
Maserati?
Oh my god,
Who was I
Mateo.
talking to? Somebody said the other day, and I loved it. How much you want to bet they get the parents to help out with getting the 126 back if they need money?
Oh yeah. So somebody said that like under one of Lone Star's posts on Facebook. I was only reading those because sometimes they're really dramatic, and I was like wanted to laugh over them. And we were on Zoom, so I told you guys that, and we're like,
Okay.
wait, that's
It's like,
actually
where did I hear
genius.
this? It is.
This is actually the best one so far.
Yeah,
Like-
I'm like I've been trying to come up with theories of how they get it back, and I'm like, this is a really good theory.
That could work. That could totally work. And like, oh my god, like I loved that theory. I still love that theory. Like, yes.
And with, you know, I was thinking about it now. Lindsay knows because that was what Paul was talking about when they were still in the collapse.
Right. Yeah. That's
So she already knows that's like for him, that's what he wants, to get the 126 back.
yeah. Like,
Yeah.
oh my god, that'd be so good. Like I'm just
Yeah.
picturing of how they could do that. And
Yeah.
Like, please. Yes.
At this point, I'll be disappointed if that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Just to be honest. I mean, like, we know they're getting it back, period. But if that's not how,
What if like this happens, but they get like a an anonymous donor to like
Mm-hmm.
donate? Like I could
Yeah.
maybe see that happening, but
Yeah.
like we find out like behind the scenes it's this guy or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. But then we go back to Owen helping like these people get to his cabin and then the coyote collapsing. This is me. I'm just like, just leave him there.
Yeah, really.
I'm pretty sure probably everybody there was thinking just leave him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Owen, you know, first responder to the core, he puts him on the sled too.
Honestly, at first glance, the first time I watched this, I didn't see that. I'm like, good, he left him there when he
Right.
really didn't.
So he got to the cabin part. It was like, oh.
Oh, where did this guy come from?
Yep.
So we get to the guy that was on foot. He's walking on foot and he finds that sheriff. And this, okay, the moment they showed him again, I knew something was going to go wrong. The second the sheriff showed up, I was like, yeah, okay. That was the moment that I knew he was like the bad guy. Before he even got out of the car, I was just like, nope, this has all the feels of this going wrong. And sure enough, the guy asked for help and stuff like that. And the sheriff, was he actually a sheriff?
I don't know.
He's deputy.
Okay.
Sheriff
I
deputy.
I thought he was either a dirty cop or was posing, but he had
he's
too much
definitely
to be.
he's definitely a dirty cop. That's that dirty sheriff. There's no denying that. But like,
yeah, I think he was a deputy sheriff, but yeah.
I was like, at first I was like, I just wasn't sure if he was posing or not, but thinking about it, he just had too much to be posing.
yeah,
He was just in bed with the cartels.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So yeah, definitely very dirty.
Marjan, at first seeing a police officer, thinks, oh, I'll go ask for help. And then as she's like yelling for him, he shoots the guy when he finds out that the guy was in the van of the immigrants.
And she had just rounded the corner. So she is in bright pink.
Yep.
In his full line of sight. And that's how I was like, okay, here I thought that being in bright pink would help someone see her. I was right.
Just not seeing her the way we wanted.
Yeah, like not good. And also like I don't think this was ever like clarified later when we in the episode, but do they ever find this guy? The guy like he's shot? Yeah. Did ever like
No, I think it's kind of I think
so.
it's just kind of past that he's killed.
Yeah, I was like, did they ever find him? Because like
I had also wondered. And I don't think they ever said anything about it.
So either they didn't find him and then they'll find him, which I highly doubt they'll show that, but like that just crossed my mind. I was like, did anybody ever like find him? Like, is he just
I mean,
like...
Marjan would have told them.
Oh yeah.
About
so
him.
Yeah.
It definitely
so
came
they probably
up.
did.
Okay, that makes me feel like, I guess, better. I don't know.
I mean, if anything, this is a rather crass way to put it, but they had to get down the mountain and he was in the middle of the road. And the guy was a little preoccupied chasing Marjan to hide a body.
Oh yeah.
So
like, he left immediately.
Yeah, I mean, he could have backtracked and hit it, but not well enough that if Marjan had told, which she definitely did, they would have been able to find it. So I'm sure they did.
Right, yeah.
But so we go back to the coma tree and they're still making cookies.
As Rafa said, those are some dang big cookies.
Yeah, he was like, Jesus, those some big cookies. And I was like, Rafa, like, oh my God. That he's not wrong. And like, okay, they were like cookies that had like pretzels, toffee, coconut, which that's the one thing that I was just like, okay, X that out. And I feel like these could be potentially good. I mean, not the best cookies, but like it's just like them making cookies that we really care about.
Yeah.
Take the pecans out and I'd eat them.
Oh yeah.
I'm not
take
a big
that
nut
too.
person.
I don't
wait, I missed what was the first thing you said that you would
the coconut? I just don't like the texture.
Oh yeah, take the coconut out. I hate coconut. So
yeah. Gosh. Well, I would eat them without removing everything.
Hey, there's still the toffee in there.
Yeah.
And pretzels.
No, that's true. Yeah.
Like I don't, if it was like small pieces of coconut, I wouldn't care. But like if it's like large things, I don't like the texture. It's just weird.
I don't like any coconut, so
Yeah. Then like TK like saying like how he just wants this to last forever, like making cookies, and Gwen's saying like how he can't and stuff. And this is like basically when I'm just like thinking like, okay, TK, if you like continue to bake cookies, you're just gonna die.
Right.
Like, you gotta go back to reality, boy.
Yeah. See, I
Well-
like how they're doing this because they're showing like he wants to stay in this dream, and that's making his body lose its grip on reality and
Right.
go
Right.
down the tank. And so it's like you see like the further he goes into the stream,
Yeah.
the worse it's going to be, which
And
I
the harder it
forget,
is to get back.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just looked too. But yeah, this is where she hands him the cookie timer. And
exactly.
you know, he sets it to a certain time and then it goes right off. He's like, what's going on? Like, why does it just like go off? And then she's like, you know, it's time to go back. And he's like, but I don't want to go back. Perfect things, you know, should last forever. And
Tarless.
I know, right?
Sorry, I had to do that.
And yeah, and you know, and he's like, but I don't want to go back right now. She's like, well, you can stay for a little longer. And then he sets the timer and it, you know, stays on time. But you know, yeah, it's the longer he stays in the coma, the harder it is for him to get back to reality.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like the whole point. But they're
Mhm.
doing this like super well. Like it's very
Yeah.
well done. Like they're timing
I was
everything
expecting to like it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So like they're timing it perfectly. And like, yes, I want TK to wake up. But
Mhm.
like it's like, and then like after this is all done airing and you rewatch it, it's just gonna piece together like I think perfectly
Yeah.
and stuff. Like some people are like dragging it, and I'm just like, listen, this is way better than anything else. Yeah.
Honestly, it just occurred to me that like for the first real time in the series so far, I think, or like for the longest period, we're actually getting just Gwen being a mom to TK.
Oh,
We're not
yeah.
having Owen drama thrown in there. We're just having mother and son time.
Right.
And I think some of the only times we really got that was like when she said that the family was breaking up again, and all that. So I think this is really special. And I wasn't expecting the coma dream to be good. I was
Yeah.
sort of ready to be let down or to be for it to be weird or something like that. But dang, they're pulling out all the stops this season.
Yeah, and I liked it too. Like you said, you know, we haven't seen a lot, but I know it's been referenced in a few interviews that, you know, we'll get to see a relationship TK has with his mom. So this is kind of like dropping hints as to what like TK was like with his mom when he was younger.
Right.
You know, like
Mhm.
baking cookies and having days. So she wasn't as absent as, you know, people are sometimes thinking. Because I know a lot of people have like dropped the hint that they think that she's like been an absent parent because she's been working so much. And, you know,
Yeah.
that's why he became a
I mean,
firefighter because he needed a parent. You know,
It would
so-
only play on that
I love
stereotype.
invalidating how TK became a firefighter. Sorry, I just had to throw that in there.
No,
Act
you're
like it was in his own damn choice.
no, that's true. And also I feel like if they did make her an absent mother, that would be playing into the stereotype that lawyers are like they're basically consumed with their work, and they like work all the time and they never have time for their kids, which I feel like a lot of shows play into whenever there's a lawyer on a show.
And like, yes, lawyers, they do have a lot of work. They do have a lot of time consumed by work. But I feel like that's just, you know, as you said, like it's that damaging.
Right.
Yeah.
There are plenty of
Because-
lawyers out there that have great relationships with their families and make time for their
And-
family.
You know, just with any working parent situation, you're gonna have to find a balance. And some people would think, oh, you don't spend enough time with your kids just when you work.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Probably especially with moms, though.
Oh yeah.
There's no probably about that, especially with moms.
No,
Right.
there
I was
is.
just thinking,
Yeah.
no, take the probably out. That's especially with moms.
No. Yeah, that's true. Like society is more harder on moms than dads. Like if a dad's absent, it's just like, oh, whatever, like he's working. But like if a mom's absent, it's like, what's wrong with her? Like she should be with her kids, blah 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 blah. And it's just like, okay.
It's true, but also chiming in on that, I feel like it's damaging because dads are almost expected to be absent.
Exactly.
Like people are so used to the idea of absent fathers. Like I'm not a guy, but I can only imagine how damaging it is for the guys and
Yeah.
being expected to be absent or like workaholic or miss all your kids' baseball games or whatever the stereotypes are.
Right.
Exactly.
especially if you're successful.
Right.
Anyway, we could go an entire podcast on that topic, and I would gladly, but that's not what this podcast is about. So
it was a good moment. It was a good moment. But
Yes.
let's move on. So the sheriff, I guess, goes to like the barn to see if like they're there or whatever, you know. And so now he's like circling and Marjan is like hiding. And also he's like sort of trying to find Marjan because like I kind of
Mhm.
had this thought that like did he think that like Marjan was part of this? I feel like he could have.
Right.
no, I mean possibly, but at that time, like the time when he first started chasing her, she was just a witness to a
Right.
murder.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because she could have
Um,
easily like gone to the cops, which I guess yeah, that makes sense. But I was just like that was just a random thought I had.
I mean, maybe he thought, oh, she has something to do with this.
I mean,
But that would have been later on. At first, definitely at first, he just thought she was a witness.
right, yeah, that makes sense. But like she's hiding in the bushes or whatever and like running away and then like hiding and then like she gets service finally and the first person she calls is Owen and I'm like, okay, I see this. But like this man is out to get you. Not even that. Like, shouldn't you call like maybe 911? Just saying.
Right. Right.
Like, yeah, she had to warn Owen, but I'm just like, I don't know. Like, it's not like it really did anything.
So my thing with that, it actually makes sense to me that she called Owen, or more than just oh, she's calling Owen kind of thought. Because if she called 911, they would not have been able to get up there. Owen was nearby and
Right.
could have at least given her advice on what to do. And she was trying to warn him too, I think. And
Yeah.
so, like, to me, yeah, she should have called 911, but to me, she didn't because nobody was coming up there for a long time.
Right. Yeah, that's true. But like also like he wasn't answering his phone anyways. Like
Mhm.
It's true.
like
In that case, I think it just turned into an also warn him.
yeah.
Because, you know, you go into a gun-wielding maniac on the loose.
Yeah.
And
Right.
It really didn't help in either scenario, I guess.
Yeah.
no, because he didn't hear the message.
Exactly.
And then we go to the 911 call center where Grace is getting ready to leave. And then Bree comes in warning her, like,
Sure you don't
you're
need
about
help
to
with
get a
that?"
lot of gifts.
Yeah.
You're about to get a lot of gifts. And she's like, okay, like, you're about to get a lot of surprise, a lot of gifts. She's like, okay, but it's not a surprise. And she's like, well, I just did what you wanted to bring. And I'm here like, that's so stereotypical. But also, yes, like not stereotypical in a bad way either. Like that's the kind of thing where like people would be walking on eggshells around like a heavily pregnant woman, just like,
yeah.
oh no, I don't want to go to wanted to bring.
Oh yeah.
That's where like we're a little tougher than that.
Yeah, because she's like, I don't want to make you like, I don't want you to
Stressed
get
out.
stressed out or like be nervous and then like your water breaks. And it's like, honestly, this is where I'm just like, well, if her water broke at a call center, I don't think that'd be the worst thing.
Not at all.
I
Honestly,
mean,
in fact, it would have been better doing it there.
right? Yeah. And they all kind of have like a baby pool in her, and that's also very like common.
Typical. I
Common.
won
I
one of
do
those
love
baby
that.
pools once.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, like this is not like identical, but like when my brother was born, people had been telling my mom not to go in labor on certain days. And don't you know she went in labor on like those days in between the times they didn't want her to go in labor, which is kind of funny. I don't think anybody
no.
like had any like baby pools on me that I know of though. Like I don't know.
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember exactly how it went, but it was like either the weekend before I was born or the weekend that I was born, because I was born on a Saturday. My mother's doctor told her not to have the baby that weekend because he was going on a fox hunt.
That's fun. Good. That's funny.
He's like, yes, please don't. I'm gonna be out of the office hunting foxes.
And me, the wise crack that I am, just like,
Yeah.
all right, let's go.
Yeah.
Like, let's
Baby
blow
me
this
was
popsicle
devilish.
stand.
Like, okay, they're gone. All right, let's go. Just kind of that.
I'm packing my bags.
The moment we get the most inconvenient time of their life signal.
Yeah. I didn't get that. My mom was in the hospital for other things when they had to induce, like, as soon as they found carbon dioxide in the amniotic fluid, they were like, yep, she's time to go. So I was 2 weeks early. So I'm like, yeah, I didn't get that. I came out as soon as I was ready.
Oh yeah, I was born like 3 weeks early, I think.
I think I was due on Groundhog's Day and I was born exactly a week later. And so not much more than that, which is actually surprising because my mom had other babies before, and the more babies you have, the more quickly they tend to come. But no, I was just I could be wrong about my due date though. But I just know that all of my family are kind of born near some sort of holiday.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we were all they were all expecting me to be born on Groundhog's Day.
Oh yeah,
that's funny. Yeah,
my sister narrowly missed being born on April Fool's. She was born a day later.
I have a friend who was born on April Fools.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I love Bree saying to Grace that like she's early to everything, and I'm like relatable.
Yeah.
Seriously though. And then
for today, like sometimes me too.
Yeah. So like, and then like I love like Grace being like, but yeah, this baby is related to Judd, and that boy takes his sweet time. And I'm like, does he? Yes, he does.
We learned so much about Judd when he's not even in the scene.
Well, I mean, I feel like that was kind of like her being like, well, it took him long enough to, be like, okay, we're gonna have a baby.
Okay, so I read that completely differently than you guys. I read it as an innuendo.
Meanwhile, back at Owens.
So the sheriff shows up at Owens. And that's just kind of the moment where you go, oh shit.
Yeah, because we know by now that everybody's back. And I think in the previous scene, when they did get back, Sadie was there and she's like, oh, you're back, the friends.
Yeah.
Honestly, I didn't even realize that this was like Owens when he was circling and then he started walking up. I don't know. We never really, we did see the outside, but it looked slightly different here. So I didn't even realize like that little.
Well, we saw the outside during the Y out. So we only saw part of it.
Oh yeah,
I
that's true.
did know it was Owens just simply because like you could tell the storyline was going in that direction.
Yeah, that's I kind of pieced it together.
For a brief moment after I knew it was Owen, but my brain did go, well, maybe he went to Sadie's or something like that. But I couldn't see the sense in him being elsewhere. Like by that point, they were starting to wrap up that storyline. And so the huge climax was coming.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, the sad thing is I didn't even see Buttercup in the scene.
Oh, I did. That was like the first thing I noticed.
I always look for Buttercup.
Same.
No, I think I was preoccupied by something, partially during the scene. And so, like, I knew when I was watching enough to, like, know what was happening, but I was mostly listening. And so I think that's how I missed Buttercup. And now I need to go rewatch it so I can see my baby.
Oh my god, yes. Like, he's so cute just sitting there with all those people, and he's just like, I don't know how to describe it. He's just, he looks so big next to everyone, but that's typical.
Sometimes you forget how big Bernese Mountain Dogs are, but they are really big dogs.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Very big. And then like, the sheriff is just like, okay, this is when the vibe really hits. And then like he starts like ordering like Owen and Sadie to like tie up these people, and then like we like find out he's basically dirty, and he's like, oh, like, so Owen's like, oh, so you work for the cartel, and he's like, I wouldn't call it that. And it's just like, okay. So like they're tying up these people, and Marjan's just looking in from outside, and then Marjan like goes to his car and tries to take out like the long gun he had like kind of like secured in this car. And so she had to come up with sort of a different plan.
I just gotta say she was brilliant in how she was things. Like, yes, girl.
Yes. And like, so like this is when like the sheriff was just about to like shoot Owen because like he's the reason why these people are here, and then like the sirens
by that point he was just excess.
Oh yeah,
he was just at this point just a witness that they didn't need.
Right. But then his the sirens of his car goes off, which distracts him.
Mhm.
And he orders Owen to like go out there and turn them off while he watched. And then like as Owen's like looking back at the cabin, he sees like Marjan in the bushes with matches. And then he walks back up sort of, and then like she lights and she had like messed with his gas tank and stuff. So that way
Yeah,
he could-
she
He'd like
ran
put
a
a flint line.
yeah, she ran a rope and then all the way down up to the deck. So when she lit it, it went up to his gas tank and then caused the car to
Kablooey!
blow.
and
Which
I'm
is
like,
why Owen was like calmly walking towards him because he knew it was gonna explode, and I think he was trying to get out of the way.
oh yeah, that makes sense
Yeah.
now. And like I loved like seeing that, and like then this is when Owen tackles him, and I'm like, okay, so like Marjan's like demolition, like all the things she did with that like really paid off in this scenario,
Yeah.
because she probably
Oh,
did
yes.
stuff like that then. Well, not
Oh,
like this
yeah.
dramatic, but like sort of like
Well,
this.
according to Carlos, sugar in the gas tank was one of
Yeah,
the-
that's exactly what I was thinking of too. And
She's
then
like,
like,
those are alleged. Those were not proven. It's like,
sure they
I love
were.
Marsha.
Sure they weren't.
Yeah.
She just didn't get in full trouble for them. But in any case, I was a little worried in the scene because, like, yes, explosion was going to be a good thing, but I did worry because if you startle someone with a gun, there's a 50-50 chance that they're going to be startled enough that the trigger, goes off. And
Yeah.
so I didn't really think they were going to hurt Owen, but at the same time, I was like concerned that they could go that route, just from startled at them.
You
I
can't
didn't-
hurt both the Strand men at the same time.
No, yeah, no.
They will
That
at one
wouldn't
point.
work.
We know they will. At one
Oh
point.
God.
I think I kind of didn't get the vibe they were going to hurt him. I just it seemed the way it happened was that as it was exploding and the guy was kind of like, oh my God, because I don't think the guy didn't really realize that they were really going to play a fast one on him. So like he's just thinking these are
He
just
didn't
some
know
random
Marjan was around at this point.
right, and he's
Yeah.
thinking these people are like some random rednecks in the country. He's not thinking that they're like he's a firefighter and knowing all this stuff. So then like as he's like getting distracted by the explosion of his car, like Owens takes the opportunity to like knock him out, and I think that the gun did end up getting out of his hand at that moment.
Yeah.
And then he was trying to scramble back to it and somebody kicked it away.
Oh well. Okay. So
That was Sadie, I think. Or no. The
Marjan.
woman.
It was
No,
Marjan.
no.
It was Marjan. Okay.
Not,
So
I thought it was the woman
No.
with the immigrants.
no, Elena kicks him in the face, knocking him out, and then Marjan kicks the gun away. And then Sadie comes outside and was like, what the hell happened? And Owen's like, Marwani. And Sadie's just like, what's a Marwani? And Owen's like, that is a Marwani. Marjan Marwani, my friend, a big time badass. And Sadie's just like, so I gathered. And she's just like, I learned from the best, Cap. This is like her just like, having to throw all that out there.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like this is like in the scene later we kind of gather, I guess, a little bit more of a vibe on Sadie. It's just funny because like it just is. But I don't know, there was like, I don't know why people thought this is a bad episode, but like there was just so many things in this episode where I'm just like, oh my God, like I love it.
Yeah.
I'm
looking
pretty sure there's a
forward to-
portion of people for each episode that thought it was bad episode.
Yeah.
I'm just like, how?
I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to watching all 4 together once we get episode 4 next week.
Yeah, same. But I love this next scene because Grace is
Yeah.
painting the baby's
Oh,
room, which is
yes.
something
I
we
love
saw
this
in
scene.
episode 1. And so she's still continuing. And honestly, the room's coming together. Like I saw a painted elephant, all these things. And like
I love
her
that she was humming like This Little Light of Mine.
oh yeah, that was so good. And like her like almost falling off stuff like that, and she's just like easy. I'm just like, easy Jesus. Like what are you trying to do?
I'm
Let's
just
not
like,
fall.
that's not a recipe for disaster at all.
Yeah, like totally. Then she hears a knock at the door, and it's just like, oh, we all know who this is, Billy.
Mhm. Yep.
And like he knows Judd's not there, but
Right.
that's why he shows up. He shows up with sandwiches, and it's just like, okay, Billy, nobody wants your sandwiches. What do you
Yeah,
want?
because he figures the only way to get to Judd is to go through Grace.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like we all knew this was coming.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, just because of all the promos we knew.
Well, not even that. Like, you know that like Billy is gonna want to like try to get Judd back in some way. Like, not get him back like that. Like, try to like be, be friends with him again. We'll see what happens, but I don't know. But he says how he wants Judd in the running to be the captain of the 125 because apparently that captain's moving on. And I'm just like, yeah, Judd running the 125, yeah, that's not it. Like,
Yeah.
I want to see him be captain, but like, I don't want to see him leave the
Not now.
126.
Exactly.
Well, and of course, Billy's trying to drop hints to Grace, like, oh, well, it's going to be a higher pay, better hours, so he's trying to give her like all the good things, like for, they're having a baby. So let's tell him that we're going to get some more money coming in if he, so he's trying, but it ain't working.
Oh yeah. And I love like her ripping into him.
Oh my God. Yes.
Oh, like
I love
over
that.
and over. Like the one thing I really liked, that one line she had was just like, Billy, I read that there are two reasons why we do anything. There's the good reason and then there's the real one. So how about you just admit it? When you saw a chance to shutter the place permanently, you couldn't resist. You couldn't stand to see the house thrive under Captain Strand. Billy, I don't want to think about what your 126 brothers would say if they could see you right now. I hope you think about it though, and I hope it keeps you up at night the way losing the 126 kept my husband up at night, Billy. He thinks I don't know, but I do. And damn it, Billy, I promised him I would stay relaxed, and I'm not really relaxed right now. So how about you get your sandwich and you get out? And then her water starts breaking and she keeps going on. She's just
the way he's just like, Grace, you water.
She's like, I said get out of my house, and he's like,
no, she's like, I said get out of my house. Like yes, this is why, like, I would say she's like my favorite.
Yes, I love Grace.
Oh,
she's so right. It's totally what we've been saying all along. Like, we knew Billy, that's like the whole reason. The minute he saw an opportunity to close the 126, he's going to do it because he doesn't want anybody else to be captain of it. So we knew that's what it is. So I love how Grace is again being the voice of reason.
Yes, as usual.
We often are.
And then like her being like when her water breaks, what am I supposed to tell my husband? And Billy's just like, that it wasn't me. And I was like, but it was you. But it was you.
Right.
See, here I'm not even having, like, with these scenes, I'm not even having a special, like, hate on Billy moment, because I'm like, I feel like we're getting to the good part of his arc at this point.
No, we are. And I was kind of like low key loving it.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of, I feel like at this point in my eyes, like, he's still sort of the bad guy, but at the same time, he's just kind of the gray morals character.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like, he's willing to do whatever he wants, whatever he can to get what he wants, but at the same time, like, he's not actively trying to be the bad person, because to him, he has reasons.
Right.
Even if he won't
his
acknowledge
logical and his illogical brain, he thinks what he's doing is logical, but it's really not.
But see, okay, I will elaborate on my thoughts when we get to the next scene with him in it, but we can move on at this point.
Oh yeah. So back with Owen, and Marjan's like catching up Sadie on what's going on, basically, and like trying to get like her take, and Sadie's just like to Owen, like, now I'm confused. And Owen's just like, about what? And Sadie's like, why won't you sign the letter of apology? And the look that Owen just looks at Marjan and is just like, and it's like, really, Marjan? And then Sadie's just like, I mean, is it an ego thing? Is it a guy thing? I mean, it seems like everybody thought this guy Bobby had it coming, so you're just gonna let him win? And Owen's just like, first of all, it's Billy, and really, Marjan? And she's just like, what? Just getting another opinion? He's like, that's not another opinion, that's your opinion.
Okay, so I'm going to trounce a little on the scene just because I have a slight issue with it. And that's because I am not someone who likes being pressured into anything. And especially when we already know Marjan won't hear an opinion that's not her own, or that doesn't align with her own. Mm-hmm. Like, yes, I fully agree we need to get the 126 back. But I don't know, I guess the way I feel is that she's pushing Owen's boundaries at this point. And that does rub wrong with me. But that's just how I view things. But that just means that, like, I find the scene funny, but at the same time, it does grate on me a little bit.
Yeah, I get that.
Especially since she's telling a complete random stranger, but at this point, everything.
I mean,
So.
she kind of knew. I mean, she didn't know this much, but she knew a little bit on the situation and stuff. And I just find it funny as we're watching the episodes, you guys are like, I still don't trust Sadie, and I'm just
I still don't trust Sadie.
I don't either.
She's
like, I don't care that she doesn't appear to be the bad guy in this arc. I still don't trust her.
Like, I love Julie Benz as an actress. Not trusting Sadie yet.
Yeah, but like nothing's gonna happen. I think she's supposed to be
probably isn't.
4.
There probably isn't. I just have a bad feeling about her. Like there's just something in the vibe that I don't trust.
I know, but you guys are like, oh, I bet she's still like somewhat like with the coyote or something.
Yeah.
I'm just like laughing. I'm just
I was genuinely surprised that she had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
I know, that's why it was so funny. I was just like,
oh
yeah, and then there's this like I think earlier in the, a couple of scenes we'd seen Elena had made a comment about like her part of the reason why she'd come to the country was because she wanted to see her sons who'd been in the country for a while. And so all of a sudden her sons show up at the cabin and she's reunited with them.
Yeah, she hadn't seen him in 20 years.
Yeah. And so Marjan makes the comment, it's amazing what can happen when a family never stops fighting for each other. And Owen's like, well, that was subtle. Again, so I get, Grace, I do get what you're saying, because she is definitely pushing. At some point, just kind of have to stop pushing, because eventually people are just going to just walk away. And I think Marjan, again, is very strong and she wants to keep the 126 together, and I don't blame her. And I think others are just not, so she has reasons for doing it. I think she should have maybe lightened up a little bit, but
I think it's such a narrow-minded focus at this point.
All right.
And so I think, I just feel Owen more on this one, so it's harder for me to feel Marjan completely on this. Though I do like the line, even though it was definitely not subtle, but I do like the line of, it's amazing what will happen when family doesn't stop fighting for each other, because it's true. Like, you can do just about anything, but it's okay. Yeah. It just feels like every moment she's talking to Owen is another angle to try and do something. And I'm just lighten up.
Yeah, we can tell he's going through something as he was in season 2. But I kind of see these moments as more humor that you kind of have to look into than something super serious. But I also see them as humorous.
They just grate me a little bit. So yeah, it's a little bit of a mix.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely with Owen on. Well, that was subtle. Yeah. I'm just like, okay, that's funny.
Yeah.
So back to Grace.
Yeah.
Okay, this episode is screwing me over with the amount of times Grace is being said.
Yeah.
I need to start mentally referring to myself as Sly. Okay.
So she's kind of grabbing, collecting her things to go to the hospital. Can't get a hold of Judd.
And Billy's still there.
Yeah, and Billy's still there. And she's like, why are you still here? He's
like, you're in labor.
You're in labor? And it's like a first responder. He's not just going to leave, whether she wants him there or not. She's not going to leave.
Yeah, and literally.
And he's like, well, at least take a sandwich. And she's like, I hate Munster. And I'm like, I love Munster.
Oh, I think it's gross too.
It's a very mild cheese.
It
melts well.
I'm just like, this is what I'm like, okay, that's not like your average sandwich cheese. So yeah, I feel that, Grace.
Oh yeah, I've rarely seen Munster sandwiches in the store, but I've also never had Munster to my memory. So I do not have an opinion.
And then she's like, actually leaves the house and he follows her and he's like, they finally get in the car and she's like not happy about it. He's like, just so you know, you're officially trespassing now, because she keeps telling him to leave and he's not leaving.
Right? And usually at this point, I would also be going on about boundaries. But at the same point, she cannot drive herself to the hospital when she is in active labor.
Right. And he's like, your car doesn't even have 4-wheel drive. He's like, can we take my truck? It's right there. And she's like, I would not even get in your truck, and if it was the only ride out of hell.
And I'm just
That's a mood.
Like, okay.
And then Billy's just like, he gets in and he buckles up and he's like, Judd, I'm not gonna let you ride solo in this. He's like, Judd to kill me.
Well, yeah.
I mean, Judd might kill you anyhow, just for the sake of it. But
totally. And It's a mood. Also, like me, Billy, like being like, we should take my truck. Like, how?
Which, it's so funny. Like they talk like trucks are the best. Like they're actually not the best because they're like, unless the bed is weighted down, like it's not the greatest vehicle to be out on the road.
Yeah.
Like
I've seen
granted,
those
it is
things
more
fishtail.
hardy, but
Her,
yeah.
I
Her
mean,
SUV would have been better as long as it's all-wheel drive.
I think he wasn't even saying that it wasn't. He was questioning if it was, which most SUVs are.
Yeah.
It's just the amount of snow that they have since they don't have plows or anything. Because obviously, like I've
and that they're not used to driving in, even if she has been going to work.
Yeah, like not that much snow, but like I've driven with like maybe a couple inches, like, and stuff. Your wheels get stuck, and you have to like be very careful, and like it's terrifying, and like and then like Billy climbing in.
Yeah, and I think Billy said something and they tell me I'm the crazy one.
Well, because he climbs in, she's like, why? And like he's like, I'm not the only crazy one.
Oh my.
Yeah, it's just like people questioning like why she just chose to drive in labor. And like I'm like, because
she wasn't getting an ambulance.
There was no ambulance that we know of.
Precisely.
They could get to her in time. She was gonna ask Billy to drive her because like no.
Yeah, considering how she flipped out at him getting in the car, she was not going to ask him to drive her. So like granted, it still would have been a better option, but at the same time, like she was keeping up boundaries. So but in my opinion, in this case, like you can forgive letting a couple of those boundaries down because you're not just thinking about yourself right now.
Yeah. Well, also,
or you're not even just thinking about her and Judd. She's thinking about the baby at this point.
Yeah.
Right. Which I don't think she's like neglecting that. Like some people saying
that's not all what I'm trying to say.
Oh no, and I'm not saying you're saying that. I'm saying other people are saying that.
Got it. Okay.
She's not neglecting the baby by driving. Like, and I think in her mind, this is just like what she thinks is right to do, and she's kind of like independent, and like she's a strong ass woman, like, and like she said, I've been driving since I'm 16. I think I can handle this.
Yeah, I know how that feels. I think she should not have been driving herself, but she has been driving herself to and from work. She obviously could drive in the snow home from work because we know she just came home from work. So Billy should have given her just a hair more credit. But I feel like she was talking out of adrenaline more so than she was talking from like logic.
Oh yeah.
Well, by that point, she just yelled at him, which is probably one of the only times she's like fully lost cool that we've ever really seen. So that was definitely going on. So she just had a lot running through her veins at that point, like a lot of adrenaline.
Understandable, yes.
And when you're stressed, the anger isn't going from your veins either.
Right.
So
yeah, so and you can kind of tell we're starting to wrap up the episode too with things going on, and like the next scene is we get Owen and Marjan riding back to Austin. He's given her a ride back to Austin from his cabin, and I love like Buttercup's just like got his nose in the middle of them from sitting in the back seat. It's so cute.
That like
he's like, I got my daddy and my auntie. I'm happy.
Yeah.
That reminds me of, like, if Cooper did that, because like it's literally like identical. And then the whole time she's trying to convince him.
Right.
Or even still pressing that issue where at this point I'm just like, Marjan, come on, can you let it go for today?
Yeah. Well, and he's like, well, I'm just giving you a ride back to Austin. And he's like, I'm not staying. She's like, but you packed up all your stuff. What else are you going to do? And he goes, I don't know yet, but I'm not, And she's like,
going to a cabin where you don't know where I. Sorry, that was just a thought that came to mind.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what he was thinking at all, but still.
Well, he said he has to stay mobile.
Right.
So I'm thinking he's just going to go somewhere else. Another town,
technically,
possibly?
His cabin's a crime scene at this point.
That's true.
So he can't stay there, which I think is why he said he has to stay mobile. But
he's restless.
Boy, don't you still have a home?
I mean, yeah, totally.
But if he is still restless and stuff, then he doesn't know what he wants to do.
Yeah, I just love her being like yours. Like she wants him to sign the letter, and she's just like, "You're so stubborn," and I'm like, "They're both stubborn."
Oh yes,
totally.
That's why neither has won yet.
Right.
Because they're both stubborn.
They're going back and forth, like because the thing is Judd and Mateo and Paul were joking about how she's gonna knock him out and bring him home, but like, they're both very, very stubborn.
Yes, they
Mhm.
are.
So like, it's like you don't win
Yeah.
with both of
Okay,
them.
but she's like, the universe is screaming at you, and I can't hear a thing, and you can't hear a thing. But in my mind, I'm just hearing Eddie's. The universe doesn't scream. That's all that I'm hearing right now.
I know, it's just like, well, I hear something. I hear Tom.
Like, I didn't recognize the song. I don't know who it was.
I can't remember if I even knew the song,
I
but
looked
I
it up.
loved them singing together.
Oh
What
my god, it
it?
was
Yeah,
so good.
that was good. I did like that.
I liked all
Yeah.
like the musical aspects of this episode, like Grace singing,
Yeah.
and then like them singing together. Like it was iconic.
Yeah.
Like
It
I
was
really
like,
liked it.
it was a little bit of that thaw, and then
Right.
just they show a shot of the car, and you hear, "I'm so mad at you."
That
From one
was
shot, I'm like, "Gosh, dang, fair enough, okay."
Right.
I was like moved that I get that. Like we've all been
Like,
there.
okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, it's funny.
It was funny, and it was honestly the comic relief we needed heading towards the end because obviously the
Yeah.
next scene is really, really tough, and the next episode is probably going to be tough. And this isn't even the last scene of the episode, which I'm
Right.
kind of glad this wasn't the last scene because then we would have been like, oh no, and then yeah.
So we get to the hospital, and it says the doctor's talking to TK or to Nancy, Carlos, and Tommy about TK. They were
Yeah.
able to start his heart again, and yes, it's good, but his body's not compensating like it should.
Yeah, and like,
Carlos, you could tell was just like kind of lost.
oh yeah, no, because he's just like when she said that his body is not compensating, he's like compensating for what? And Tommy's like, it means his vitals haven't returned to normal yet. And the doctor's just like, he's been through a major trauma. I'm afraid he's on the verge of multi-system organ failure. And Rafa and Carlos has tears in his eyes.
Yeah.
And he's like, how do you stop that from happening? And she's like, unfortunately, there's not much we can do other than keep him sedated at this point. It gives his body a chance to recover without additional stress. And Carlos is just like, does that act usually work for someone in his condition? She's like, it can. And Carlos is just like, it can, but realistically speaking, what are we looking at here? And she's just like, we're watching his labs closely, but if they continue to trend down, and Carlos is like, we could lose him. And she's just like, I'm sorry, I don't have better news. And then she walks away. And I'm like, okay. Like, but like Tommy and Nancy comforting Carlos is just
Yeah.
like, oh.
And if you noticed, like them both trying to take his hand and
Oh,
like
yeah.
squeezing it.
At
And
this,
like
at this point, to me, I'm seeing him almost vibrating out of his skin.
Right.
Like
Oh, yeah,
he's I feel like he's almost out of body at this point because he's in shock. He's in emotional shock.
He's numb. He's like, and then he's like he can't accept their, and like I feel like this moment of them trying to take his hands and like trying to comfort him is like goes along with what we saw in the preview for the next episode.
Yeah. And like he has to go outside for fresh air to be alone. And Nancy's just like, do you want me to come with? And he's just like, no, I need to be alone. I'm like, Carlos.
Yeah, and he's got the Carlos cow eyes going.
Oh, you know what my friend said? Carlos said
He's had them going this entire season so far.
Carlos Cowboys, Carlos Sad Eyes. That's what my friend called it. And I'm like, wait, that's actually good. I'm
They're
using that.
soulful.
But amen.
Yeah.
Like Rafa did amazing. Like he does amazing
As
every
usual.
episode, but this was awesome. Like he does emotion extremely well.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
no,
yes, he does.
Of course. Like, yes. And I can't wait for the next episode just for Rafa content, just for Carlos
Oh, yeah.
content. Oh
Yeah.
yes. But we end with Billy and Grace in the car driving, and Billy is being a backseat driver, and I'm just like, yeah, shush. Nobody likes one of those. If somebody
Did he say something like, "I'm passenger seat driving"?
not, yeah,
Or
backseat
did he?
backseat driver driving, yeah. And
I thought he'd corrected with passenger seat, but I
No.
could have been hearing that from something else.
no, because nobody says that. Everyone just says backseat. But yeah, like seriously, nobody likes one of those.
And
And
as
so
all of a sudden they get to this like area on one of the roads, like I guess heading into town or something, and there's like a whole bunch of abandoned cars, like kind of blocking parts of the road. So they kind of have to kind of weave through them, but then eventually they slow down, which is not what you do in like snow. You don't slow down because if you slow down, you sink. And this is what happened. They sunk.
yeah, but you also don't want to go like faster, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
because
You want to keep an
'Cause you could
even,
get out
even
of
speed.
control.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
if you go too fast, you're gonna go into a ditch or go into the sides, or you're gonna there was honestly no good way like
Yeah.
to go about this. Like no.
Yeah. Yeah. So they were slowing down, and I feel like if they'd have just kept consistent pressure as they moved around each car, I think they would have been okay. But since they slowed down too much, I think it was just enough for the car to like settle down and then start to sink. And then like all of a sudden she realizes they're stuck, and like she's revving the engine, and you can see the snow stuck in the tires. And
Yeah, honestly, I don't even think they could have gotten out of that.
no, they needed a lot of sand and a lot of salt to do that.
Oh yeah, because like
Yeah.
just me, like that's how the roads are 24/7 here. I'm like, yeah, there was no way they could have like driven down that and gotten through, even if they were steady or whatever. Like there was no way.
And this is
Yeah.
how the episode ends.
Yeah.
I'm so
I mean-
excited for the next one.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I'm very excited. Like I really did like this episode. Like there's so many good things in it and stuff, and I just can't wait to see what they do for like almost like the finale.
Yeah.
It was a good episode. There were some things in it I didn't like. There were some things I loved. I am excited for the next episode so we can finally get the rest of the Storm episode and see kind of what gets wrapped up. And we know from what Ronan and Brian and Jules had made, commented in their live that, there was so much content for what they filmed for the snowstorm that they did give us an extra episode of it. So that's why I think a lot of these, especially in episode 2 and 3, there were a lot of expanded scenes, like scenes that hadn't been cut down as much as they could have been to progress the show along, because there was enough and they were getting an extra episode.
Yeah, well also I don't even think I think it was an extra 2 episodes, because somebody else mentioned that there was 2 because it was only supposed to be 2, and then they made it 3, and then they were like, no, we're gonna make it 4.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So it's definitely gonna be nice to have everything wrapped up. And and I know that what we're gonna get is a lot, because there are some synopsises being released of possibilities of what the upcoming episodes are about, and I know that that's mentioned the 126, so there's a good chance that we're getting them back sooner than we expected, but we'll see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do there.
Definitely upset about TK, but I get it. I feel like TK wasn't in the water long enough for him to be in this severe shape, but that's just my thought.
Okay, just nothing about that rescue was logical, and I'm keeping it at that.
Yeah, well,
like,
I don't think
not the aftermath, not the.
Well, just based on interviews, we know it's not going to be something that's blown over, so it obviously is serious. But like, he's not going to die over, is what I really mean. Like, we do know that,
right?
But
What I was saying was just like, was he in the water long enough to be this bad off?
He wasn't. The kid would be, yes. Like the kid should be clinging
The
to
kid's
life.
supposed to be dead.
Yeah.
But again, nothing in this rescue
reality,
makes sense.
yeah, he would have been dead. So
he would have been dead, or he would have been like very brain compromised.
yeah. So
Yeah,
and
like,
the
he
kid
was
was
dead
in
by
there.
this point.
I know we've said like the kid could have been in there in up to an hour. So if TK was in there for like the max of like a minute, he would not be in this deep of shape unless there was an underlying condition that we didn't know about prior to this episode happening.
Yeah,
but really only that storyline, that's like the only thing that like makes completely no sense. But like, even with that, they're blowing this out of the park. It's a great set of episodes.
Oh yeah,
And wait to see what 4 is.
Yeah, and I like that we're getting more Jed and Grace content, and I'm excited to like finally have a Grace and Jed baby, because that's something we've been wanting since day one.
Mm-hmm.
So fan thoughts, of course, first we're just share TJ's, because like, yes, I just have to scroll up to find it. Oh, okay. So he said that, I love TK and Gwen's moment together. I think they could use a little bit more of the time. I think the cop situation with Marjan was cool, but wasn't a big fan of it. would love to see more of Paul's recovery. It was a great episode, but feel like some key things were left out, which is how I kind of felt like with the first watch. But then after, I was like, okay, like, yes, some things are left out, but I also think that's because like the other part's gonna come before and everything's gonna like, end, climax, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like don't forget, we still got another part. They're
Yeah.
not gonna put everything in the third one.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely. So people are like, depressing, traumatic, need therapy, and I'm like, yeah, so where are we sending those bills to?
I know, right?
But yeah, that's honestly the mood of this episode. But I think they really balanced it, which is kind of why I'm kind of happy they didn't show like too much of the hospital, because I feel like if they did, it would have been super depressing. Or they balanced it out with some funny scenes and then also like cute scenes, and like they really have a good balance of all these episodes.
I mean, we're seeing with these middle episodes, each one of them we've seen the beginning of a storyline, the end of a storyline, and the beginning of a climax of a storyline.
Right.
So, like in this one, we have the beginning of a storyline, which is TK's coma dream, that we could technically say that's a continuation from the other episode, but I think of it kind of being as like another beginning of that storyline. We have the wrapping up of Owen's part, and we have the climax with like Judd and Grace, even though, we could kind of just switch some things around. But anyway, we have all those things starting
Right.
and continuing. So it's going well. They're balancing it amazingly.
Yeah. And honestly, I will rewatch it after episode 4 airs, like all the parts to piece it together to see like how it pieces together. I'm really curious and stuff to see that. But yeah, I'm really excited. And the promo, let's talk about that. So TK in the hospital, and Carlos is sitting like in the chair next to him, but it's like sort of far away, not really, but sort of. He's not like right up there, and Carlos is just like, if this is goodbye, I can't even hold your hand. And this is when I'm watching this and I'm just like, oh, what like, yes, you can hold his hand, like, come on. And like I get it, because they're not together, and like things were probably like,
I don't know if it's that. I feel like it was more of he's like feeling like if he touches him or he holds his hand, it's gonna make it more real.
That I could see that too.
Maybe.
What I don't think, and people keep saying this, is that like they're like, oh, like imagine TK waking up like after this, and I'm like, and TJ and I had talked about this, like if that happens, that is super like predictable, like every show does that. Like
if they have like some dramatic wake up after a grand romantic moment, then it's just cliche, and they're doing so
exactly,
good in
that's what
some
we
of the
said.
Worst. So like, no, let's not.
Yeah, like that would just be way too cliche. Like, yes, I want him to wake up, and I do want them to have a moment, but I don't think this has to be part of the moment. Like, we'll get something, but like, no, please, let's not do that.
And we're gonna get a couple of Tarlos episodes or scenes next episode.
Remember what Ronan said? Like, next episode is going to be your new favorite Tarlos scene. We'll see about that. We'll see. Yeah. It's gonna have to be a real. It's gonna have to be a real good Tarlos scene for us to be like, okay, this is a new favorite.
I mean, they keep getting better.
I know, but like there's just together. Like honestly, it's so hard to beat the one from episode 12. Like that one still.
Oh yeah. But I think people were saying that about the police station scene and the car scene, and they just keep getting better. So hopefully we get something even better.
I know. I'll let you know how I think next week, I guess. But and then Grace is obviously in like full on labor, and like they're in like, it looks like an RV, so this must be one of the abandoned vehicles on the street. I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think so.
And like she's saying how
we're just commandeering.
Yeah, and like Grace saying how she needs her husband, like and like Judd's like has like the radio in his hand, but he's like talking, and like I believe he's still at the 122 station, and he's like, please God, let her be okay. And like Owen and Tommy and Judd are trying to like get to her, and Owen's saying, but like this is like over other clips that are happening during this episode, saying like, no matter what happens, we're gonna fight together, which I'm not really sure which one I think that's gonna, like, what that's gonna be about. I feel like everyone's gonna be like, it's about the 126, but like, is it? I feel like that might be a little, like, I feel like that might be a given.
Yeah,
but it's not necessarily it.
It's either that or maybe we don't know who he's talking to when he says that. He could totally be saying that to Billy. He's like, we're gonna fight as a family.
Yeah.
Like, to Billy. Be like, we're gonna fight
Honestly,
about it.
like I wouldn't be mad if it was about the 126, but I feel like that's so predictable. So I kind of want it to be like a different take.
Honestly, I feel like the predictable thing is that they're talking about either TK or Grace.
Oh yeah.
I feel like that's predictable end.
Yeah, but
for me.
But we also know they're gonna get the 126 back. So anything revolving around that to me at this point just seems so predictable. And I'm just like, okay. Like I'm not gonna be mad about it. I won't be mad at what it's about, but like I just don't want it to be that easy, I guess.
Yeah, and I know there's been mentions that Tommy and Owen are going to be going out to help, definitely help find Grace. And I know there's a clip that was weird because it was released before 3 and then it was quickly taken down. So they must have been released in like a packet
picture or video, because I don't think
there's a couple of pictures that were released, and it was one of Tommy standing over Owen while he's like kneeling in the snow with their hand on his shoulder, and then there was the group shot of them at the looked like they were next to a crane or something outside the 126.
Yeah, well,
so they were posted, and I think they went up with an article, I think by Nerds and Beyond for episode 3, and then those pictures quickly disappeared. So I think they realized they'd been given them for the wrong episode.
Well, honestly, like I don't really follow like blog sites because I'm kind of sketched out by like credibility, so I always go to like the actual sites, and like those were still up for episode 3, but then they were also up for 4, like almost like they combined. So I have no idea. Like I'm like we know they're gonna be in this episode, but like, or we hope they are. Yeah. We'll see. And I don't like between episode 4 and 5 there may be a big time jump too. Like we don't know, like obviously there's not going to be as much as like 9 months, but there might be like 2 months later or a month later of like
well, if they're getting the 126 back, then they need to renovate it. So I imagine I can see there being a time gap either with the end of episode 4, like this time gap before last scene, or into episode 5.
Yeah.
Okay, I could see like the last few minutes of the show being a time jump, but anything before that I feel like is kind of like, I don't love the idea. I honestly prefer like a time jump during episode 5, like when episode 5 starts, like they've gone forward a few months, because I feel like these episodes are supposed to be like in the same time frame, even if it is not the episode. But we'll see.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's just my thought, because they need to renovate.
The snow's just not going to disappear overnight. So like I know that the one picture of the group standing outside the 126, and I think Tommy's holding a box of like donuts or something, there's no snow on the ground.
Yeah.
So that,
So I have a slight hunch with how things are going to turn out. Ronan has teased that Billy's being redeemed. And this is actually the point that I wanted to bring up earlier, but I forgot to. When just before Billy and Grace get stuck, he finally opens up about like him still struggling with losing the original 126.
He agrees with what she said. Yeah.
I got the distinct impression that this is the first time he's really talked about it. Yeah. Like, I don't feel like he's gone to therapy or anything like that. I feel like he's just kind of tried to deal with it on his own. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this is one of the first times he's really talking about it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's because he got a big reality slap in the face, metaphorically, by Grace.
No, I think Grace will slap him too. I don't think she will.
I think she was within like just one more sentence out of him before the water broke.
I feel like a little smack, a little love tap, like honestly.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah.
But I feel like the way I almost want this to happen at this point is I get she's going to be busy in labor, but I kind of maybe like during one of the down points, like they continue talking about that a little bit, or it comes up at some other point, and like he starts being like, okay, yeah, maybe I am holding on too much or something like that. And so I can see maybe that's how he redeems himself in a way, is just him kind of deciding, okay, it's not worth it to take out the 126. That's sort of how I see it going right now, but I could be wrong.
I'm my kind of theory is that he's gonna redeem himself by saying, like, finally giving in, like you were right. It's like, this is the first time he's really talking about it. And I think from that, I think he'll like say, like, look, He's like, I won't close this 126, but he says, we don't have any money to remodel it. You guys are going to have to come up with the money.
Or it's the kind of thing where it's like, if you can come up with the money for it, I'm not going to close it. Like along those lines. And I definitely think that the whole parent thing is the angle.
It very well
makes
might.
So much sense.
It would.
And it wouldn't even have to be like them giving it as a gift. They could be as like city donors, like, because it's very common that like large companies in cities will donate to a certain, you know, fire department or the police department, sponsor them, so like their milk cartons, so they get like free milk for like the station or whatever.
Yeah, although like I would more like it for them to be anonymous donors, so that way like they don't necessarily know, but we know as an audience. Because I feel like if they add like the milk into it, I'm just like, okay, like I don't know, I feel like that takes the fun away from it. No sense.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, but that's just kind of I wanted to bring up what Billy had said in the card simply because I think that's when I started feeling a little more like empathetic towards him again, like a little bit more sympathetic. Like, yeah, he still is a bit of an ass. And I will continue going, he's a lot of an ass until he relents on the 126.
Also,
but
like,
I think that really was like a crack in his armor, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah, 100%, I agree. Like also him like saying how he thinks about his 126 brothers like every day or every night. Like that's like admitting to what he admit to Grace.
Yeah.
Was really good.
And like, I love when her calling him out. She's like, I wonder what your 126 brothers are doing right now with how you're treating of the 126 right now. And I think I remember even saying like, yeah, they're probably rolling over in their graves right now.
Yeah, so I mean, that would be me. I if I was in that situation, I would be rolling over my grave and then I would go back to haunt.
I was like, can they haunt? They should be able to haunt it. They can haunt the 126.
I would be okay with bringing back a ghost storyline just to have.
Yeah, there we go. That's the Halloween episode that we never got in 911.
Okay, that could get real dark real fast. So maybe.
I wish Ronan being like, we don't do holiday episodes. Boy, be quiet. Why don't you go about teasing something? But like we know by episode 5 they have the 126 back. So I think this is all gonna like honestly by like the end of the episode it'll probably like start unraveling.
Yeah.
And I'm just ready for it.
Some way. Yeah, I am too. And I know that there was comments like even like early on, like when we, the news came out, like the episode 214, seeing like Billy's comment about it. And, even to Manir said, well, we're not going to keep them apart for long. So I'm kind of glad they did something like this. Like we had like the time jump. So they've been apart for a while, but we haven't physically seen it. Because I don't know if I could have watched like an entire like half a season of them not together. Because I would have just lost interest in most of the characters.
They couldn't have made it sustainable, honestly.
It would have been
not without a big disaster bringing them together constantly,
right?
Like
it would have been just as bad as Buck's lawsuit.
Yeah.
Like I didn't actually mind them like separated in a sense because I feel like for a couple episodes, but like it was actually kind of interesting to see like how they adapted. But like if we had a half season of that, I would have stopped watching, but like I would not have been happy.
That just would have felt way too drawn out, and that just would have been pushing the storyline, to be honest. Like if they were really able to make it more dramatic, like right off the bat, they maybe could have done it, but they didn't bring in the drama necessary to be able to sustain it for a lot of the season. So
the last thing I'll say about Billy is that they're gonna redeem him in this next episode. They better keep it that way and not just
please
keep him as a revolving villain, because that's really irritating. Like we got it in season 1, we got it in then season 2. If we continue to get it, I will be irritated.
I agree. I feel the same way.
I'm sure we all like as a fandom, like everyone feels that way, because it's honestly it's annoying.
I want the 126 back. I want Tarlos to get back together.
That's one thing I do want to talk about right now. One last thing, Tarlos. Okay, so like don't get me wrong, I really want them to get back together, but like I swear if it happens at the end of episode 4 or even at episode 5, I'm not I'm not gonna be happy. Like, yes, I want them to get together, but like if they're gonna be broken up, I want them to get back together in the right way. I don't want it to be rushed. And like I feel like that's just the easy option for them to get back together, like right away. Where I want it to be at least drawn out for like half the season at least.
I don't know about half the season. By like half of the first half of the season, maybe. Or I don't even know if that makes sense, but a few more episodes. What I want to see is he wakes up and they start working on their issues.
Yeah.
Because obviously there was an issue that made them break
them
up.
to break up.
And they need to resolve it before they can get back together. So,
because I kind of feel like the way Carlos was acting in episode 1 of season 3 was kind of the way he was acting at the beginning of 110. But she's like, okay, he's like, well, whatever's not meant to be, then I guess it wasn't meant to be or something like that. And I feel like that's where Carlos is at right now. So they need to work on some of their stuff. And so my hope is that TK is going to have a revelation during his coma dream, because I know we're going to get more of it, I'm sure, in the next episode. I feel like he's going to have a revelation that, about his relationship with Carlos. And when he wakes up, he's going to want us to talk to Carlos, and they are going to start working on their relationship. Or at least he's going to make a comment to Carlos that he wants to start working on it. And then, in the next couple of episodes, see them working on it, or at least trying to address what happened, and then kind of moving on from there. Because I also feel like they also can't continue to constantly dwell in the past.
Yeah.
So, because if they keep bringing up the past, that's also not great in a relationship either. So they just need to kind of find the balance of how they can like move forward as a couple and as individuals too.
Yeah. I'd also I don't want them to go back where they were, because I feel like that might have been the problem. I don't know. That's why I kind of wouldn't want it to. I don't want it to happen like right away. Not even by like episode 7. Like maybe by episode 10, but like I just don't want it to be too fast, because I could see it getting real sloppy.
I could do it earlier than that if they did it well.
Yeah, but
it all depends on how they do things.
Yeah, it also depends the time frame, because it's like if it's like a month, okay, that's a little too fast. But like if it's a couple months, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
I know Ronan has like dropped hints that like, I think even somebody asked them like, is he worried that they would consider putting like Tarlos with somebody else, like TK or Carlos?
No. Oh my
and
God.
He's like, I don't think so. He's like, even if you look at like what Tim Minear said, he's like, they're about bringing couples together and the reunions. He's like, that's why they broke us up off camera. So then there could be time apart, and then they can bring us back together. He's like, I don't think that they're considering doing that. And I don't know how long ago that article was, like how long ago he was interviewed for that article. But I don't think it was very long ago.
No, like he obviously knows like they filmed up to, I believe, episode 10. So he obviously knows like how it ends up. And I can imagine by then it probably is resolved.
And he can't say that much.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, so he's saying what he can, and I get that. So I'm glad for that, because I did not want to see that. I did not want to see TK or Carlos sleeping around, or not that they would. Like, I definitely don't think Carlos would, but I know TK, I don't think either nowadays. I don't think he would.
I didn't really think that was gonna happen at all. I was like, okay, that's really overdone. Like they're not gonna do that. But like when people ask that, I'm like, really? Do you really think that's gonna happen? I'm sorry, but that's a stupid question. We know they want Tarlos. They want to give us Tarlos. They wouldn't have made a major couple if they didn't want to give it to us.
Yeah, and we've been rooting for Tarlos since before the show premiered. So
exactly.
Their end game. Period.
Exactly.
Thank you guys so much for joining us and listening. Please be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Anchor, and we are also on Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, and just about anywhere where podcasts can be found. On iTunes, please rate us and leave us a review. It would mean a lot to us. As usual, you guys can follow the podcast on our socials at 911 LS Roundup on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We, of course, have our Discord server, and the link will be in the description of podcast and also in our Instagram bio.
You guys can follow me, Katie, at FullOfTarlos on Instagram and at ForLoveTarlos on Twitter.
You guys can follow me, Grace, at RonanRatha911 on Instagram and at CheapGirl31 on Twitter.
You can follow me, EJ, at EJ8302 on Instagram and Twitter. Bye.
Bye.